Islam makes more sense because even if you're stuck in an island, you could figure out the Islamic concept of God by simply looking at the birds and the trees, the monkeys, the donkeys, the cows, the sheep, so simply looking at the nature. But you could never discover the Trinity that way, says Mr. Muslim, Mohammed Hijab's new Dawah partner. Some of you might be thinking, yeah, that sound is simple. And some of you might even go further and then say, well, this sound is convincing. Not at all. There are lots of serious problems here. And they're not small ones. They are serious and serious problems. And before every problem I bring it up, I just want to ask, like, seriously, why cannot Muslims think little bit? Just think little bit. I'm not asking anyone to be Aristotle or Einstein. Just think little bit. Why is it so difficult for them to think little bit before they come up with any argument?
When it comes to the belief in God, Islam makes a lot of sense. Now, you could be born on an island and never hear of Islam and Christianity, yet you can come to the fundamentals about the Islamic concept of God even without interacting with the Muslim people. You cannot say that. So let me just complete. You cannot say that when it comes to Christianity, because you're Christian, I'm giving you an answer in your context. You cannot say that about the Christianity. There's nothing that you can discern from studying nature that will make you think that this DNA molecule is pointing out a triune God. But it can point out that there is one true God. So in a nutshell, that's the simple reason why I believe Islam is justified over Christianity.
So the claim is, if something is true about God, you should be able to figure it out by looking at the nature, right? Sound is reasonable, maybe? Here's the problem. You can't get to Islam from the nature either. You don't get the Quran. Which Quran are you going to get? You won't be able to get Muhammad from the nature, from the birds, from the trees, from the cows. How are you going to submit to Muhammad? In full submission. So looking at the birds and the trees and the cows and monkeys, all those kind of things. How are you going to figure out? Once in your lifetime, you've got to have this special French kiss with black stone. From studying trees, DNAs, or the stars, you won't be able to find Islam at all. You see the problem here, right? Mr. Muslim is holding Christianity to standards that Islam is never, ever able to meet. I find it's very, very disturbing. But here's where everything falls apart from this stupid argument. I know I shouldn't say it's stupid argument, but with this argument that they never even bother to think about it. If nature clearly leads people to figure out the concept of God, like Muslim says, God of Islam, then why didn't people actually arrive to that conclusion? Just think of the history. You don't even need to study history. Think of the history, right? The Greeks said they have a God who controls the sky, Zeus. Again, they said they've got another God who controls the sea. Like people like Vikings, didn't they have gods of thunder and war? Other cultures have many gods and spirits in everywhere. All you need to do is bring your attention to Africa, bring your attention to India. That's all you need to do. So you've got to be honest. People look at the same birds, same cows, same trees, same stones, and they did not come to conclusion that there is only one God. They come to conclusion that there are many gods. They did not come to conclusion, oh, this is the God of Islam. Not at all. Not at all. So simply claiming that nature leads people to find the God of Islam is, I'll put it nicely, screaming out to you as a false information. That is simply not true. That's a huge lie, because history simply refuses that. Some of you maybe never even bother to wonder why this happens, because humans, we just don't see things. We interrupt things, right? And we get lots of things wrong. We imagine things, we fear things, we make stories. So instead of saying one ultimate source behind everything, people said there are different forces, therefore there are different gods. So the problem isn't the nature, problem is not the birds or the trees or the cows or the sheep. The problem is us. I find it's very interesting since people in Ireland can figure out the concept of Islamic God. I'm just like, why Aristotle is not a Muslim, was not a Muslim? The deeper thinkers in Greek philosophy start realizing something was wrong. Plato began speaking of the good, a supreme ultimate reality. Aristotle argued for a single unmoved mover. So what happened? The more carefully they sit down and reason, the closer they get to one ultimate source. But even then, they never arrived at Islam. Aristotle never become a Muslim. Plato never become a Muslim. They never find Allah. What they arrived? They arrived abstractions, a distant, impersonal philosophical God, big and stronger version of you. So, if you just think a little bit, the birds and the trees and the sheep and the cow, they don't give you true religion or false religion. They simply give you fragments, and human beings interrupt those fragments, and we often did very, very bad job.
You cannot say that about the Christianity. There's nothing that you can discern from studying nature that will make you think that this DNA molecule is pointing out a triune God. But
one of the things Mr. Muslim stated is you cannot look at the DNA and discover Trinity, correct? But you can't also look at the DNA and discover the Quran, Mohammed, and Islamic theology, Islamic practices. So again, same problem. So the real question is not what can you do by your own to figure things out. That's not the real question. The real question is, has God revealed himself? That's the real question. Now, one of the things I struggle to understand is why Muslims, especially the ones who are in the Dawah circle, spend too much time to dig their own grave. I really don't understand. They insist God is absolute one, no internal distinctions, right? But can't they see the serious problem here? How is God eternally loving? How is Allah eternally loving? Love requires relationship. If God is a single person, then before the creation, before the foundation of the world, who was Allah loving to? What was Allah doing? Allah was alone, lonely, and needy. That's very disturbing. You are not alone, but your God is alone. You are not needy, but your God is needy. Versus in Christianity, God is not alone, lonely, and needy. God is eternally Father, Son, and Spirit. Love is not something God started doing in sometime in time and history. No, it is who He is. Father is loving the Son in the power of the Spirit before the foundation of the world. So the Trinity isn't irrational. It actually explains fundamentals about God that Unitarians, Antichrists, Islam, all those false religions simply stays quiet and then they cannot explain. So when someone says Islam makes more sense because you can figure out things from the nature, they are forgetting that simply history disproves that. People did not arrive at Islamic monotheism at all. Philosophy shows nature gives only partial knowledge. Theology shows we need revelation. And even Islam depends on revelation. So the real issue is not what can you figure out by your own in an island. That's not the real issue. Real issue is, has God acted in history? Has God spoken? And ultimately, did Jesus Christ, eternal Son of the Father, died on the cross by crucifixion? And did he walk out of that grave on the third day? Did he rise from the dead? Because that's where the debate is actually decided. Not in an island, not through birds and donkeys and the cows. No, no, in Revelation.